Well, tell me a little bit about you. I'd love to just like record this so I can take notes from it and
Course.
create a article just based on whatever this open conversation comes.
Okay. Yeah, this is strange because I'm usually on the other side of the interviewing process.
Yeah.
Uh, I interview um, Black, Brown, Indigenous, and racialized uh, folks who are really in the outdoors and, like killing it. So, and I do that for Field Mag. So this is definitely a different role that I'm playing. So I'll just take you back to the beginning of when the outdoors was introduced to me. Um, I had come off of a divorce and was really just going through a lot of um, deep emotions that I wasn't really able to process. And so I kind of doubled down with addiction. I was already, you know, uh, uh, partying a lot and, just being kind of this young, carefree spirit, but with all of these really adult duties, being a mom, being a partner, making sure a household was being, run correctly, and all of these different things. So I kind of just freaked and, started really escaping into things that would just kind of take me out of like those heavy emotions that I was feeling within that partnership, within my role as a mom, not being a successful writer and, like, my opinion, successful writer. And then we split, and it was really bad for a while. I had met someone who was super into the outdoors about a year and a half later, and he was just really passionate about everything that had to do with Mother Nature, everything that had to do with, like, the old country West, and everything to do with Native Americans, and, everything to do with, like, the sea and the just everything. And he brought that excitement into the relationship. And I had already kind of been, going back and forth about getting sober. And our first trip that we took, we went to Sequoia National Park. It was supposed to be just like a camping trip. I hadn't camped, since I was 10,
Yeah.
and was super excited about it. And then a few weeks later, he came back. He was like, well, we're actually going to do, a backpacking trip. We're going to, like, have some, packs on our backs. We're going to camp. It'll be rad. Um, I was so into the idea of just doing something new that I said yes, not knowing really what I was going to get myself into. And yeah, we went to Sequoia, and I fell in love with, like, everything that, I don't know, that place is just so magical. It's they say that Ojai is very much a vortex. I
Yeah.
feel like Sequoia is so much of a vortex. It's so weird as you, like, drive up into the mountains, and, like, these huge trees that, I had never seen trees that big before. It really, like, caught me by surprise. And um, so we put on our backpacks. I was like 3 Adderalls high. It was really great. My heart was beating super fast. I was terrified of, seeing a bear. It was physically, at that time, the most challenging experience I had put my body through. Um, but as soon as we got to our destination, we took the trail that leads up to Heather Lake. Um, I don't know, seeing a crystal clear lake. Did not expect that. I was just so open to the whole experience that all of these things that I was seeing for the first time really just, I don't know, I just fell in love. I fell in love with life. I fell in love with, you know, all of these different possibilities that one has when you go and have an adventure. Um, I fell in love with the fact that I could actually hear myself think for the first time because it was so quiet. Um, and I had vowed that day, I would never use or abuse. And I've been clean for going on, I think like it'll be 3 years, July 21st, or we already passed it. It's been 3 years.
Congratulations.
So thanks.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's huge. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. So yeah, that whole experience, I mean, that relationship, I was only with him for about a year and some change. And, we did a bunch of outdoor stuff and went to Joshua Tree and camped underneath the stars and just kind of got back to this like very basic way of living that provided me so much peace that I had never felt before. I have always lived in big cities. My mom was really big into the outdoors. We hiked a lot. I've always hiked no matter, where I lived, I was always kind of, you know, not connected to nature, but understood that if I wanted to get out and, have some fresh air, I could go for a hike. I understood that concept. My mother is white. My father's black. I grew up with my white mother, and she's just very adventurous, and did a lot of stuff outdoors, and would take me along sometimes, and so it wasn't so far from like my my experience growing up of just being able to go out and take a hike. um and so yeah, and so then we broke up, and I think that breakup was kind of, I remember one of the last conversations that we had, and he was like, well, I'm afraid that if we break up, you're going to use again. And I have always had those words in my mind. um and so instead of doing what I did in my first real, serious, like just like gut wrenching heartbreak, I did the opposite. I really found myself
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
And I took my first solo backpacking trip and then became like such a junkie for it. And I already have a very addictive personality, and I I don't think they say that addicts don't really entirely get sober, they just switch their addiction. And so that's what I did. But yeah, I kind of just like doubled down on really finding myself and working through my codependency issues, that I'm still working on to this day. Working on being able to, I don't know, like understand what autonomy means and understand that I have it, with or without a person. And it's been an amazing journey.
Yay. I feel like we, as just the human experience, is craving an escape. And we do that through so many different things that could turn into addiction. Of course, it could be overworking, it could be overcompensating,
Absolutely.
anything, and I feel like hiking is that way to escape and be in a safe place and feel the weight of the world like taken off your shoulders.
Absolutely.
It's a healthy, we love to see a healthy coping mechanism.
Sure.
Like,
We love to see it.
we
We love
love
to
to
see
see
it.
that.
I'm so happy with I mean, yes, living through a pandemic was awful in so many ways, but in many ways, I think society kind of came together and was like, what the fuck are we actually doing? Because what we were doing in the past, like, was not working at all and was creating so much unnecessary stress. And, a lot of people were in harm's way from really their own doing. And I think a lot of it, you said, like, I forgot the word that you exactly used, but just like trying to live up to your expectations and other people's expectations and this like quick like workflow, and like you have to get it done on time and everything has to be like this, and it's
Yeah.
just like such a fast paced world that it's just really unhealthy.
Yeah. And it makes it where being in nature where, we really belong and where we started is, it makes you feel high.
Absolutely.
It does give this euphoric, like, you're right, I backpack too. And
Yeah.
it's like, when you're there, it's just like heaven on earth.
It, I've said it 1,000 times. It literally is heaven on earth.
Yeah.
You can't explain it to anyone who hasn't backpacked before.
Yeah.
A lot of people just think like, oh my God, that's so much work. You have to put on a backpack and then you have to fucking hike what? And then how many? Like it's a lot to comprehend, but then if you just like take a chance and you actually do it, you see sights that are impossible to see, like for what they actually are, because you can't see it by car. It's a different perspective if you're in a small airplane, like hovering over in these mountains.
Right.
Pictures don't do it justice, neither does film. It's really this like, it's unbelievable what you can see out there.
And it grasps you. And like, how crazy is it that all of your journey through this and a lot of your healing and becoming who you are and embracing that came from this like short-term kind of relationship that you on a trip together.
Yeah.
It's not that it was your boyfriend at the time who had developed that relationship and that healing. It was just that small introduction, and then nature does the rest.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, God, I never even looked at it that way.
This is my first time thinking of it this way.
I mean,
That's the thing. It's just never ending. It's beautiful in all ways, every perspective.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. It really does pull you in. And, but you also have to be open to it. It's so different if if you're like not tapped all the way into who you are, or if you're not craving just a little bit of like, a little bit of something that you haven't gotten in your normal way of living. I think those who are super open to it really do see it for what it is. And I think that those who aren't kind of tapped into, like their soul's purpose won't be able to see it through clear eyes.
Yeah.
And and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I just think about, so many people that, I take on a hike, or, like, and, it's very interesting to see like the different responses of
Yeah.
nature.
Right.
I usually like equate it to like, I have a friend and we used to say like, oh, they're baby souls.
Yeah.
I kind of equate it to that, like for those who can't really grasp, like what this is when you are outdoors. like maybe this is their first time here on earth and they're a baby soul. I don't know.
Beautiful. You can tell. I mean, and I feel like when you're out there, nature's gonna punctuate whatever you're feeling. And so it's a form of manifestation, it's all kind of the same thing. Like if you're showing up with a bad attitude, feeling like
Yeah.
you'll be able to do it, there's so much power in being like, well, I have an open mind that anything could happen, but I really do believe that I'm going to be able to like have a good experience here and just enjoy
That's right.
being here. That's what it's all about, right? Like,
Yeah. 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 I had no idea, I'm sure your experience is a little different, because I'm assuming you're white. I don't want to assume, but yeah, you see people that look like out there on the trails. And so you don't feel, I mean, even being, a female backpacker, hiker, it's still, you are of the minority, but it's still kind of this like,
it's approachable and it's normal and
it is.
Yeah, totally.
I had no idea that there were so many people who looked like me out there who loves the outdoors as much as I do, who's out there as much as I am.
Yeah.
I mean, the pandemic really kind of snuck up on me in that way. I honestly thought I was the only one besides Rue Mapp, who is the founder of Outdoor Afro. I honestly thought I was the only one. And, to be able to see all of these different groups who are just like showing out and like, like stepping up to the plate and saying like, please, take my hand. I would love to guide you and help you and teach you and, show you that there are different, activities that you can do besides going to, see a movie or go to the club or go to the mall, or like all of these activities that, are in large part, just a part of capitalism in many ways.
Yeah.
The outdoors, yes, the gear is expensive, clothing is expensive if you want to look really cute, which I always do. And I'm like, yeah,
expensive. It's like the most, I think I saw one of those things that said like hike culture is like the most just rich people
truly
trying to be, homeless.
Yes.
It's just funny.
It is. It really is. Yeah, but it's been really nice to see.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like especially, I work in the industry too. And so some of my work is about identifying where these issues are and trying to fix them. And it is, I feel like over the last, especially year since COVID, it's demanded even more aggressively that it's not just having people of color in your advertisements, it goes beyond representation. And that's also another big part of why I wanted to talk to you. And I know that you're so passionate about that, and that you help raise voices everywhere. I mean, how does that kind of, tell me more about how that plays into your role and just your experience? Do you feel hopeful? Or obviously there's a ton of work to do.
Yes. It always brings me great pleasure to speak with a badass who is just out there doing their thing and doing it well. Yeah. It makes me feel like I'm not alone, that I have this kind of built-in community, even if I've never met them in person before.
Yeah.
One of the women that I spoke with for Filled Mag, her name is Judith Kasiyama, She is the founder of Color the Trails.
I watched that. It was beautiful. Beautiful.
Oh my gosh. I'm just so inspired by her. She is such a leader, and just, you know, I grew up wanting to be an actor and, you know, be in film. I watched a lot of old films with my mom and my grandmother. And, you know, so the people that I always thought were icons that I looked up to were, you know, like Betty Davis and Katharine Hepburn and, you know, all of these like powerhouses who just like knew how to command a scene. And I never thought in a million years that I would be 35 and look, you know, to someone who is my age, who is just so within her purpose and, you know, giving back to others, and just has such like a force about her.
Yeah.
The outdoors. It's like so different than what we are as society, like what we view as like icons.
Yeah.
She is so much of what I always felt Katharine Hepburn, you know, was, or Betty Davis was. And it's really, I think my perspective on who I look to as a leader and who I look to for inspiration has changed. And that's been surprising, because I know they know what I know, what you know about the outdoors and how it changes you and how important it is. I also never thought I would be such like a big voice for the outdoors.
Yeah, you're amazing. You're so, the way that you're describing her, I feel about you right now. You are
thank you.
Extremely inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have a little bitty following, but man, I'm talking about the outdoors all the time. All the time. It's, you know, what I live and breathe, and what I wanted. I just want to be out in the mountains, and I want to be, you know, I just want to be able to like think. And a lot of that probably has to do with, you know, mental health. The Black community has never had therapy per se. It's always been shunned upon. It's, you know, hasn't been taught, you know, oh, she's just like, she has her issues, we don't talk about it. Yes.
Yeah.
Everything is just swept under the rug. Either that, or, you know, there's only a small percentage of, you know, people within the Black community who are middle class, and even smaller percentage who are, you know, upper class. There's, you know, the country is the country's only made of 13% of Black folk. So, you know, it's like, you do the math, how many out of that 13%, you know, are successful? We only hear about the stories we only hear about those successful stories. And a lot of it has to, you know, is centered around entertainment, you know, within music or sports.
Which
so
is a form of capitalism again.
Absolutely, truly, exactly, truly. But yeah, therapy is not, it's not a thing within the Black community. And I think I'm even more passionate about it. And I'm even more, you know, like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not alone in this. You know, all of these people that I'm interviewing, they know exactly what I know. And so it feels more like, a community who is just kind of charging and waving their flag and saying, like, you can't afford therapy? Oh, just go to the outdoors. Yeah. It'll be fine. You'll be good. You'll be good. You know? Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that's, you know, it's been, I think you know, being asked to be a part of the BIPOC series that Field Mag does has definitely been life-changing in so many different ways, more personal than professional, you know, because it's like, you know, I don't know, you can do all this stuff and, you know, how many people see, or, you know, like you in your mind, you feel like you want to be here and you'll never get there. But actually, like, the work that's important, you know, is like the personal work you're doing within.
Yeah. Wow. That is so beautiful. How did you get to be a part of this series? How did it even come along?
Instagram is a beautiful, wonderful, wonderful thing. Oh gosh. I think it was after, it was definitely after the Blackbirder situation in New York. I'm not thinking of his name, and I want to Google it so you can have that on record. Blackbirder, New York. Yeah, Amy Cooper, Christian Cooper. So after that situation, there was Blackbirder Week, and then after that was Black Hikers Week. And it just really kind of exploded. It was quickly that was followed quickly after, you know, George Floyd was murdered, and I had been following Field Mag for probably about a year or so, and I don't know, something happened. We just exchanged information, and I was like, if you need, you know, like, would love to help in any way. And he's like, well, actually, let's, you know, jump over to email. And so, yeah, Instagram is like
And
a wonderful little tool that I think we often get really perturbed with. And we're just not like seeing it for what it is. You know, if we just see it as a working tool and, you know, not get caught up in the likes, it's, you know, it's a way healthier approach, I think.
yeah, well, it brought us here today.
Yeah, truly.
You talked about feeling more connected to your community through social media. I mean, it's powerful. It also depends on who you're following. I had to do a clean out of my followers.
Right there.
I feel like shit every time I'm on my feed, because I'm seeing just all these like skinny, like they just had a baby and they look like iconic, like
right. Yeah.
bikini girls. I'm like, why am I following this?
Yeah, I think well, also what the pandemic done, it has allowed us to see people who have their shit together really lose it, you know, whether that was through, you know, posting 1,000, you know, stories on what they baked, or just like mental spirals, like
Me.
yeah, truly.
I mean, all of us, like, it really just was like we all have a different form of
yeah,
you know?
yeah. What I did instead was I like doubled down and like hid out in nature.
Yeah,
Because I know myself. I knew like, I'm not feeling really great, and you know, this could be really, you know, I took a lot, you know, to Instagram when I was going through my first breakup. And you know how you can like go back into archives and like just watch your stories and like how young you were.
So cringy sometimes, though, for me. Like, why?
So cringy. So bad. And so this year was like, or this past year and a half was like the first time in my life where it was like, I cannot take to camera because I will fucking lose it, and I will not be happy with it.
Right. I know. It's a good balance of like putting yourself out there in a vulnerable way so that you can look back, and even though it's cringy, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, that was where I started, and then now I'm here. Like you said, not blowing up. We just think that when we're passionate about something often and we put hard work into it, like it's going to blow up and it's just going to be easy. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
this part in between is where, like you said, all of that work happens that makes the end of it. And even if there is no end, just makes the whole process so like heaven on earth.
I was listening to Abram Hicks. If you don't know who it's not even a person. It's a very weird backstory, but they deal with spirituality. Mm-hmm. Esther and Jerry Hicks is the actual like team behind it. The theory is called Abram Hicks, and it's nutty in its own right. But one thing she said about journey is, your journey looks the way it does because it was the, oh God, what was the terminology they used? Basically, it was like the clearest path for you. Yeah. It was, even if it feels all like conjumbled and like all over the place and you're like, what the fuck? I would never even fucking put that there. Like, that's not what I would want for my journey. It was the clearest path for you to get to where you needed to be. And it was also the clearest path for others to receive and be able to like get what you're giving off.
Yeah,
so if
by you. Yeah,
exactly.
Wow, that is that's an interesting way, because we always like to say, this is the hardest
truly
happen, but it's like, no, you're right. Everything is designed in a divine way to make it where things that we think are hard now really aren't going to be at one point.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, I was really like tickled, by hearing that, because I was able to look back and, on my own journey and say, yeah, if I had not been completely, heartbroken in these relationships, or I hadn't been super like not focused on motherhood in this area, or like resentful in this area, it wouldn't have led me to all of these different steps that put me on this step. Yeah. Which is, I think, probably in this lifetime for me is of my highest calling. And it's strange because it's like so simple. It's just like being outdoors and then just like being happy about it and then sharing it with people. Like,
we make things so complex. I feel
we make things so fucking complex.
And then it's like when I go outside, I feel so childlike and so innocent. I laugh shit off, and then I come back to the real world and it's like I'm a couple days in feeling that way, but then it's just that grind and system, and just everything has so much pressure that it's like things do actually feel that serious and that complex.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
They're not. Why do we put ourselves down? Can you tell me, Brandy?
I cannot. I can't tell you because I'm still trying to figure it out. But what I did, I recently took 5 women backpacking. It was their first time backpacking. I'm trying to start this women's backpacking trip. Maybe once a quarter, because it's a lot, and I already have like so many things that I want to do. And but I remember we went to Ojai, and we were just like looking out into the Sespe Wilderness. That's the territory. And one of the women, Megan, she was like, it's really like being in the city is very hard on the system. You know, you have these cell phone poles and you have these buildings and like all of the frenetic energy that's coming from cars, from noise, from other people. And then out here, it like takes all of that energy away. And so you have this kind of like clear path for your energy. And so I just kind of, you know, because one of the reasons why I love backpacking is because I'm in my body and I can feel my body working through whatever emotional thing that I need to work through, whatever fucking thought I have in my head.
Yeah.
I can't do that here. I cannot fucking do it with a ton of buildings around me. I cannot do it with other people. I can't do it with all of these different energies.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what question you asked, because
I don't
now
know either. I think it was like, why do we make things so complex? And I think if I'm hearing you right, your answer is because in an urban, fast-paced world that we're not designed to live like this.
Yes.
We have barriers that block
Yes.
that natural energy and ours from connecting in the way that it should be. And backpacking opens that up for you.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah. You can't thank me. You have to thank Megan Mendoza.
It's funny too how like we all have our own experiences and it feels so personal because it is our relationship with universe that, but then when we talk about it with other people, it's all the same shared experience. It's just, yeah, this is why I want to share voices.
I think
is that this connectedness is something that everyone experiences and we all need to be experiencing it together more.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is really great and you should not stop doing that. You're welcome. What I've learned, so my creative partner, Rachel LaForce, and I, we had this, we had a podcast called Basic Instincts. It was, you know, very spiritual. You know, she's very like spiritual and woo woo and like the most LA spiritual person you'll find.
Age.
She like fucking eats that shit. I love it.
I love
and
that.
I'm very, you know, earthy and outdoors and like really like, no, we gotta take to nature and like figure it out. And one of the things, so instead of doing a second season and doing interviews that way on a podcast, we're just doing these Instagram lives. And one of the things that I have realized through doing just our 3 interviews, we've only done 3 so far, is every woman that we've talked to had a moment where they felt out of place, had a moment where they felt like they didn't fit in. And so I think it's really important, you know, for you to know, like, if we talk to each other, we're having these similar experiences. For you, it might, you know, I'm not going to put it on you, but for you, it might be like just this conversation of spirituality and the outdoors. For me, like finding that tie through these women and knowing that I once felt that too, like I don't fit in and what the fuck am I going to do, and not being able to maneuver through that. And then finally being able to maneuver through that is really cool. Like we're all just kind of reflections of each other in many ways.
Yeah, it is. It's like, it's hard to think about sometimes because I'm like, some people I'm like, I could never think the way you think, but we really are sharing the same human experience and we're just, like you had said, coping in different ways, trying to figure it out in different ways. Like nobody knows what the hell they're doing.
No one.
And I think going outdoors doesn't make you feel like you know what you're doing, but it makes it okay that you don't.
Oh yeah, it does.
It
really,
like, who cares?
Yeah, fuck it. I just I just got a fucking wind tie.
Fun. I love that. Yeah.
It's
Wow.
true.
So I want to be courteous of your time, but I want to make a central theme to these interviews, just asking, I guess, how the outdoors connects. And we talked a lot about this today, but how the outdoors connects them to themselves and the world around them. And what does that look like for you?
For me, I think how I'm able to take my experiences in the outdoors and kind of utilize that learning that I did within my own, everyday experience is, I mean, it's kind of twofold. It's breathing when I need to, taking a pause and knowing, when to kind of take time to just breathe and let things settle. Or just, take time, if I feel like I need to, hit that deliverable and send that out. And I'm just not in my body and I'm not emotionally or mentally in tune to be able to say I can't do it. And I'm not going to force myself. If I force myself, then it's just going to be shit, and being okay with it.
Yeah.
At the same time, because as you know, backpacking is very strenuous and extremely challenging it's just a very physically challenging thing to do. I have also learned when I need to just fucking do the thing and not really think about it. Just okay, I got to do it. And I can't, spend too much time in my fucking creative brain. No, it's gotta be like this. And
yes, perfectionism.
It's nice talking to a writer too, because I know we probably share similar experiences. I'm not really I'm being very broad with things, but as a writer, you fucking know. It's
I feel like it's also, they say that, I don't know, there's some correlation between creativity and issues. And I feel like truly, I don't know if maybe everybody has issues, but people who use their creative side to understand them, we get each other.
Absolutely.
We get each other.
Yeah. Crazy, me crazy.
And that's what I also love about social media too, is it's not my interview, but I also struggle with codependency and perfectionism, and just, I think it's normal for us all to feel just weighted down by expectations, whether they're there or not. Our system is set up in a way where we're constantly feeling, we're pressured to feel in a lack mentality, and you have to really be at a high vibration to be having that abundance mentality, right? So I feel like social media is punctuating that. Everybody's being vulnerable. Everybody's starting to come out of the woodwork and say, hey, this isn't working for me. Who else? Any other crazies out there?
Absolutely. And we've realized that there are far more crazies of every shape, race, whatever. We're all kind of, especially I think I don't know how old you are, but I'm gonna, put you in with what?
I'm 23. I'm so young. I know.
I did this with our Ellen Bradley. She is 23 as well, and Rachel and I were like, oh, you're cruising from here. You got everything under control.
Hopefully. I don't know.
I feel like if you are if you are dialed into, let's just get one thing straight. Like, yeah, the people who are like celebrities and are like, I want to hike at Griffith. Like, we're not talking about those people. We're talking about like people who are like outdoorsy. Like, we're nerds. Like, it is a very nerdy thing. Like, doesn't matter if we're hot, if we're, you know, whatever we look like there's something like we're already not following like the sameness as the norm in society. I think that already gives you a leg up, because you're going to be concerned with your goals and your dreams, and you're going to take the steps to achieve them, but you're never going to fall in the traps of keeping up with the Joneses. I think we might do that within the outdoors. Hopefully it won't, you know, become like such a, you know, like a highly commercial thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you'll be fine. I think you're fucking cruising.
Do you have any other advice while I have you? Do you have any other like advice for me, or
of course
things that you've learned over your years?
Yeah, I have learned, oh gosh, I've learned a lot. And I think kind of piggybacking off what I just said, is don't be too concerned with how people see you. And if you're 23, so when I was 23, my kid was already 2 at the time. It was so young.
Yeah.
I went through all of these different stages. I went through this kind of fuck you phase the minute I turned 28, and like I hung out with like these kind of like rock and roll moms who were just it was
cool mom.
Yeah, yes. Although that story did not end up well. So you don't know what your life is going to look like. Whatever you do not give a shit about how people see you and see you transform and blossom into who you kind of eventually become. Like, you feel very like rooted in yourself around like 32, 33.
Okay.
But you have so much time.
Yeah.
And I would hope that, you know, in 5 years, if we talked again, you wouldn't be you sitting here right now. Yeah. So, you know, don't feel afraid to grow. Don't feel afraid to take steps outside of the norm. Even if they feel a little bit risky, even if you're like, fuck, I've never done this before. Fuck, what is happening? Fuck! Like, there's something within you that you'll need to address. You know, for me, you know, turning to drugs was my way of saying, I feel trapped in this situation. I need to get out. I will fucking implode if I don't. And the drugs was the thing that helped me implode so I could become who I was.
I love that. What a beautiful story you have.
Yeah.
I mean, you look amazing. And still, 35 is not like...
No, it's not.
You know, thank you so much.
Botox is great.
Oh, that was a secret. When you said you were 35, I was like, oh my goodness,
I look the same without Botox. Botox just happens to like smooth everything out. That's another thing. If you care about your looks, you know, if you're going to be that person, don't be afraid to get the Botox.
Okay, don't be okay. Preventative.
Don't be afraid.
Okay, got it. That's great.
Other people might not agree with me, but
yeah,
you know.
that's Good to know. Okay, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Is there anything else that we missed that you'd like to speak on?
Um,
And can you please, if not, share where people can find you so that I can make sure to include all that? And if
yeah.
Instagram for now, then that's great too.
Yeah. I have a blog called Babbling Brooks. It's babblingbrooks .me. You can find me on Instagram at Brandy Brooks Writes, on Twitter at Brandy Wood, although it's very like I gotta up my game in the Twitter department. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much. This has been
Thank
so
you.